We often go into developing countries to do good and create change for the better. Mimi Meredith says it's quickly obvious that westernized ways don't always work. Instead, simple resources in the hands of native change agents can make all the difference.
So my daughter, Mary Charlotte, intended to give this presentation, and she probably would have started out by saying that it wasn't nearly as frightening about thinking about going to Kenya as going with her mother, her 4 aunts, and 2 uncles who she'd be with for 2 weeks alone. Indeed, it was a wonderful trip. My sister Sharon in the center organized it. She's been going to Kenya for 20 years, and this was her 30th trip. She's helped to build 2 dental clinics through the Presbyterian Church of Fargo and the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. So our first stop was to visit the clinic on the Kikuyu Hospital campus. Kikuyu is an area outside of Nairobi. This simple sign is no indication of what we found when we stepped inside. As you can see, this looks just like a treatment room that you'd find at a clinic in the US. So our preconceptions about what you might find for dental care in Africa on one end were completely wrong. In fact, the professionals who work here are amazing. I would love any of them to be my dentist. Our family helped support the development of this particular room, so it was great to get to see it. In contrast, this is the clinic that we offered that afternoon. We went to the Dagoretti area outside of Nairobi because not everyone in the area can get to that hospital. In fact, it intimidates many because it's so grand. So the dentists in Kenya, not Americans doing good, take their show on the road. This cavernous space inside the Jesus Refreshing Sanctuary Church, I don't know if you noticed that on the sign or not, was transformed into a dental clinic. Hard dirt floor, the parishioners at that church would just sit in white, simple plastic lawn chairs for their services, and that all became part of our dental clinic. On the right of this makeshift screen is the intake area where patients registered and then told a dentist technician about what they were suffering from. On the left, you can see a woman in the orange shawl being prepped for her procedure with anesthesia, and that's the side of the building in which the treatment occurred. We saw more than 200 people that afternoon. This woman was one of many who was having her teeth extracted. Stacked lawn chairs were the dental chair based on the person's height who was being served. So a child might have 10 chairs stacked there. The natural light was the best light in the room, and so that was what we dealt with. What came through time and again was the dignity of those being served, the dignity of those providing the service. Obviously, these people had very little and they had great pain, and they came to be helped by their countrymen. We were there simply to provide the medicine and a tiny bit of support. Vincent and Johnson are the dentists there. They're 2 of the 700 dentists in all of Kenya. To put that in comparison, in the United States, there are 190,000 dentists. So in Kenya, there's 1 dentist for every 378,000 people. In Kansas, there's 1 for every 2,000. This is my daughter, Mary Charlotte. My job was the pharmacy technician at this dental camp. Hers was to train people in how to brush teeth, and you can see that she had a rapt audience and a wonderful experience that day conveying the things that we take for granted. Some of the other things that we did while we were there was to visit remote schools that my sister's been involved with. This is an excellent example of great roads. Most of them were not nearly this fine. We were rarely met by other vehicles. People in Kenya walk or they ride motorcycles called bodabodas. That's border to border, said quickly. This was one of the schools we visited, very typical of the schools there in very remote rural areas. The bricks here are waiting to build the addition to their school. No bond issue necessary. The families get together, build the walls with support from people just like you and me, and support of their own people as well. These are their whiteboards. They are feed sacks embroidered by parents, and the lesson occurs nonetheless. So whether it's blue thread or a felt tip marker. Children were desperate to get there so that they could have every chance to be educated that they could. Another form needing neither abacus nor computer, these you might be able to tell are pop bottle lids used to teach number lessons. We saw these in every school that we visited, and it made me appreciate every bottle of pop I had a little bit differently. And again, parents provided these as the resource tools. The woman on the left is Millicent, a heroine in Mary Charlotte's In My Eyes. The woman on the right is my niece Molly, another heroine. They have done a lot of research and outreach to this region of the Chagorria area known as the Thraka County, and they had led us to these schools where we taught classrooms full of girls about how to handle their menstrual cycles, because in many developing countries, women drop out of school not because they want to, but because they miss so much school every month because they have no feminine hygiene products, that they fall farther and farther behind. So we took the supplies, and Millicent and Molly trained them how to use them. Then Millicent called up Molly on the left, my sister Barbara on the right, and each time would say, these women are professors. They both have their doctorates. If you study and if you stay in school and do all you can do, you can be doctors just like these women. This was us celebrating panties and pads. Who would think, right? But we wanted to remove the mystique and help these young women understand that it wasn't anything to be ashamed of. It was something to embrace, that we're all women and we were proud of it. And I think they thought we were a little bit nuts. Millicent drove by this corner every day on her way to work in Chagorria at the hospital, and there were always children gathered there in the dirt. They were orphans, or if they weren't orphans, their parents couldn't take care of them. And Millicent and her husband saved their money and built the Faraja Center. Faraja is Swahili for comfort. The children find a place there where they can have a meal, where they can be together, where they are loved and protected. And I think that universally that's something that we all seek for our children. So again, you travel the world and you find how much you have in common with others. We immersed ourselves in Kenya and we came out forever changed for the better. Thank you.